Welcome back, everyone. Well, suspicion is falling on the insurgent group Boko Haram in a new and horrifying attack in Nigeria. Authorities say a bomb, evidently strapped onto a 10-year-old girl, was blown up Saturday in a crowded market in the northeastern part of the country. Security sources tell Reuters at least 16 people were killed and more than 20 wounded. Officials say it's likely the bomb was triggered by remote control. The city where the bomb went off is in the heartland of the Boko Haram insurgency. And the news comes as Boko Haram is being accused of a massacre on a horrific scale. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of people are reported to have been killed in the days-long attack. So we want to turn now to our Diana Magnay, who is closely monitoring the violence in Nigeria. So Diana, the details, just shocking. What do we know about this massacre that took place?
Well, so little, because it's up in a very remote corner of northeastern Nigeria in a town called Baga, which is a fishing community on the shores of Lake Chad. And we're hearing reports from eyewitnesses, from refugees who have fled, that it could be hundreds, it could also be as many as 2,000 people who were killed since last Saturday, when Boko Haram militants moved into Baga and started pillaging, slaughtering, setting fire to the houses, and they have done the same thing in surrounding villages. Apparently bodies are littered across the ground. It has been impossible for security forces to get there to actually engage in a true head count of the number of victims, but a local governor has said that he believes that as many as 2,000 people have been killed in this spate of obscene violence over the last week. Thousands of refugees have fled. There are 1,000 refugees, according to the UNHCR, sitting on an island in the middle of Lake Chad, stranded effectively. There are 7,000 refugees who have fled into western Chad, and 20,000 more who fled to the regional capital, Maiduguri, which is about 230 kilometers further southwest from Baga, where they are being looked after in refugee camps or centers for the displaced there. And that is the same town where on Saturday, yesterday, this 10-year-old girl blew herself up, or as vigilante groups who were doing the screening into the market say, they actually believe that someone remotely detonated this device that she had strapped to her waist. And we are hearing from local police that there were as many as 20 people killed in that attack and scores more injured. And let's not forget, Rosemary, that this is less than a month now until the presidential elections in Nigeria, and Boko Haram clearly sending a very clear message to Goodluck Jonathan, the president, that they intend to keep this campaign of violence going throughout this election period. Rosemary?
The details simply horrifying, and a little later, Diana, we will have a guest to address the question. A lot of people are asking why their government and their military is unable to fight Boko Haram. Many thanks to you, Diana Magnay, reporting there with all the details on the violence in Nigeria. Appreciate it. An Islamist rebel group in Nigeria has reportedly carried out a massacre. Reports say Boko Haram militants sacked and burned Baga and nearby towns in northern Nigeria, killing hundreds and, by some estimates, up to 2,000 residents. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Alex Vines. He is the head of the Africa program at British-based think tank Chatham House, and he joins me now from London. Thank you so much for speaking with us. So we are hearing these horrifying details of these attacks by Boko Haram, and on top of this, Nigerians are still waiting to hear word of the hundreds of boys and girls abducted by Boko Haram, and they ask, why is their government and military unable to fight this brutal Islamist group? What's the answer to that?
Well, they're right to be asking the question. I'm asking the question too. Why is it that Boko Haram has been so successful in northeastern Nigeria, and why we're still waiting to hear about the fate of the Chibok girls, for example, and other boys also, and children, as you mentioned? The answer, I think, is the ineptitude of the Nigerian security forces. They are just unable to respond to the sort of violence and insurgency that's occurring in northeastern Nigeria, of which these massacres are the latest atrocities that have occurred. It's a very depressing situation, and it shows just how dramatically the security forces in Nigeria have deteriorated in recent years, that they are just not able to respond to the sort of crisis that we're seeing.
So if they're not able to respond, why not accept some of the help being offered by the international community?
Well, you're right. The international community has offered assistance. It has provided some assistance. But in Nigeria at the moment, the situation is so politicized, including about what to do in terms of counterinsurgency, that international support is really difficult to be effective. My view is that this needs to be depoliticized. There'll need to be a rethinking and restructuring of the Nigerian security forces in terms of counterinsurgency. And as you've suggested, there'll need to be international support. In the end, it'll be technical counterinsurgency, I think, that will be necessary here, as well as a political process. At the moment, there's just a lot of drift, and talking to Nigerian security forces, my analysts have found them very demoralized and very demotivated, and hence we continue to see these sorts of massacres.
Yeah, and still we see the growth of Boko Haram and these horrifying stories of 10-year-old girls having bombs attached to their bodies and set off by remote control, plus these massacres. There is so much to cover here, but unfortunately we are out of time. Alex Vines, thank you so much for joining us and shedding some light on this horrendous story. We appreciate it.